Welcome to the WTR Small-Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. Today, I'm joined by James McCormick, CEO of Cloudastructure, Inc., NASDAQ ticker symbol CSAI. Cloudastructure is a leader in AI-powered video surveillance and remote guarding solutions. The company combines intelligent computer vision, cloud-based analytics, and live human intervention to help property owners detect threats in real time and stop incidents before they escalate. Also joining is my WTR Equity Research colleague, James Kisner. James, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
James, for listeners new to the Cloudastructure story, what problem or problems are you solving, and what is different about your cloud and AI approach to video security?
Yep, great question, Tim. You gave a little bit of an overview to it when in your introduction, but let's just reiterate a few things. We are a cloud-based security platform using artificial intelligence to specifically monitor 100% of activity that is going on at locations that we protect. 100%. And what happens is, as opposed to traditional security systems that might use what's called a network video recorder, right? The old videotape or hard drive solution, we actually upload all of that content up to the cloud, where it goes down to our AI servers that analyzes all of these videos and identifies ones that they think represent threatening activities. And in that instance, it goes to our remote guards where human intervention takes over. And that's what we're doing. We are proactive security as opposed to reactive security.
That's fascinating. I have a great appreciation for that. I won't digress very far, but I'm a very security-oriented guy and have a kind of interesting background there. And I'm always amazed when I see people sitting in front of security screens with a lot of cameras and they're not really paying attention. So AI is going to force them to actually know what's happening. I love that. But also, James, before I turn it over to James Kisner and ask a few questions, I always like to ask our guests to provide a brief overview of their professional backgrounds.
Yeah, brief, huh? I've been doing this a long time. Let's put it this way. Since I've been out in Silicon Valley, relocating from the Midwest in 1989, I've done a variety of things. I've been CEO, CFO, COO of public and private companies. What I like to say at this point in my career, I view myself as a Swiss Army knife. Whatever the company is that I might be working with, I'm fairly certain, given my background, that there are things that I can bring to the table to help the company grow and work towards profitability, those sorts of things.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'll turn it over to James Kisner and ask several industry questions.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Tim. And thanks again, James, for coming.
Mhm.
All right. So you highlight a 98% deterrence rate for threatening activity. So,
Mhm.
maybe you could say in more detail, how does the combination of AI and live remote guards actually work to
Yeah.
stop crime in real time?
Yeah, that is the secret sauce of what we do. And back to what Tim had mentioned about traditional security people, let's compare and contrast. With traditional solutions, video solutions, where a human being is watching activity, research has shown that they can watch at most effectively 10 screens. After that, you miss things, your attention span drops, you have to go to the restroom, whatever the case might be. With our solution, I mentioned at the front end that we monitor 100% of activity at sites that we protect. And to date, right about now, we're processing about 8 million videos a day. And when our AI servers pick something based on how we have trained the models that we've used through machine learning and other artificial intelligence methods, if they identify something that could be a threatening activity, it goes to our remote guards, the human in the loop, if you will. And those people can look at, given the way that we're processing the information and sending it to them, they can look up to or monitor up to 70 screens, 50 to 70 screens versus 10, right, with traditional guarding activities. And what happens is when we trigger an alert, the guards will get a live alert showing, right, hey, something's going on here. And then they intercede and determine if it is a normal activity, then it's just dismissed, or it's something that requires additional processing, I guess you'd say. And what they can do at that point is they can do one of a few things. They can notify authorities. With our solution, we integrate speaker systems, so they can actually talk down as they're looking at the person, i.e., you with the crowbar in the parking garage in the blue hoodie, you're being recorded. The authorities have been notified, and 98% of the time, the problem goes away, right? Before it happened. So that's the proactive piece as opposed to traditional security systems, which are reactive, and that's what allows us to have a 98% deterrence rate.
So my next question, I think you kind of got at this question with your last answer, but maybe put a finer point on it. So,
Sure.
where does AI really make the biggest difference day to day? Is it detecting the issues sooner? Is it reducing false alarms, or is it, making the response more rapid?
Yes.
Well, that's an
No,
easy one.
it's an easy way. It's all James. It's all of those, right? It's all of those. It's the, again, go back to traditional security systems, like an alarm system in your house or an alarm system at a company. What happens? Someone breaks a window, jiggers a door open, alarm goes off, and authorities are notified. Maybe somebody shows up, maybe they don't, right? If you have live guards that are protecting the property, depends. If they're in the Midwest or on the East Coast, they're driving around in their car. They could be taking a nap. They could be having a cigarette break. They don't want to get out of their car because it's 10 below. Reactive, you miss things. With AI, that allows us to be out in front of the problem and identifying potential problems before they happen. Proactive, back to that phrase or word, right? That's the key differentiator for us.
Yeah, I think Paul Blart, the mall cop, needed you. So if anyone gets
Wow.
that somewhat dated reference, let's talk about financial results. You guys have been doing
Mm-hmm.
pretty well lately.
Mm-hmm.
Q3 revenue is up 272%
Yes,
year
sir.
on year. Contracts signed are already more than triple full year
Mm-hmm.
24 levels. So, what's driving the acceleration? And I don't want to ask you to issue any new guidance or get you in trouble with regulators, but what can
Right.
you talk about say about the momentum you're seeing in the business?
Our company has spent the past 3 years really getting a footprint into one key initial vertical for us, and that is multifamily housing. Think large apartment complexes. In fact, we work with 6 of the 10 largest property management groups in the United States. All marquee names, they're in our press releases and on our website, and people would instantly recognize them. Early on, being a relatively new entrant into the space, it took a lot of time to get initial contracts and to convince people to trial our solution. What we found once we were in with a particular property ownership group, we find that they just absolutely love our solution because of all the things that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. And it also opens the door for us to be able to get introduced to other properties inside that ownership group, the land and expand strategy, if you will. And that's exactly what we're starting to see now. In addition to new logos that we're signing on a quarterly basis, we're seeing additional traction inside existing accounts, and that has really helped us fuel additional contracts and additional revenue growth. I'll give you a good statistic. Of the property ownership groups that we work with, they manage about 10,000 properties. Right now, we're in about 150 of them. So just we'll never get to 100% penetration, but just additional penetration into that key vertical represents a very meaningful opportunity for us for future revenue growth. And we'll get into it a little bit more as we go through the conversation, James. But we're starting to see some traction into additional verticals as well that we're very excited about going into 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. I guess I'm curious to double click on multifamily a little more. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, what is it that's really, driving your success in that vertical? Is there a way that you're shaping the product or service to meet the specific needs of that vertical?
Sure, sure. So think of it this way. Think of it this way. If you're a property owner or property management group, what is it that you're really trying to do? You're trying to stop uncomfortable situations from happening, number one, and you're trying to protect yourself against lawsuits. Think slip and falls, issues with the pool area, other common areas. And that's exactly what our solution provides for our customers like that, right? Um, think about where we would have a big impact from a camera area or surveillance area. Mail rooms, entryways, parking garages, those types of areas where we have the ability to stop and deter car break-ins, mailroom and package theft, unhoused people, right? Trying to stay warm in the lobby of building, those sorts of things. In addition to protecting our customers by having video evidence, I guess you would say, against some of the things we just talked about, right? After hours, group meetings in pool areas or other common areas. Someone claims that they had a slip and fall. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. So those are some of the things that our solution provides. It isn't necessarily that it's tailored specifically for multifamily housing. It just so happens that a lot of the protection that we provide is very, very useful to that community, as well as other verticals we're talking to.
Again, I think you may have kind of given me part of the answer here in this next one, but you're not allowed to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you referenced 99% customer retention in the past, so maybe you could try to parse that a little bit. Is there something that's outcome based, or the service model, or just the ROI? Sounds like there's some ROI. You just killed my retirement plan, by the way, my slip and fall retirement plan. But how do you track and sustain retention,
Yeah.
as you scale?
A couple things I would say about that. And the ROI is an interesting one. I want to give you a very specific example on that one. But once we're in protecting a particular community, and once we demonstrate to the property manager what we are helping to avoid, I guess you would say, right? Because these property managers, they get daily reports and video clips of activities that we have said are, targeted as potentially being an issue. So, and they get activity reports, they get an understanding of when we've done talk downs, those sorts of things. So it isn't just recording stuff and hoping that you can go back and get proof of what you've been able to deliver. We provide the information to our customers as well. They're able to go and search the videos that we have captured on their behalf. And it's interesting. We index those videos much as Google has indexed the webs. So they're actionable and searchable. I'll give you an example. Let's say that someone runs into the parking gate, causes $5,000 worth of damage. The property manager goes out, or their security person, and they go, blue paint on the gate. They can go to, if they know when it happened, the day that it happened, or maybe it happened over the weekend, a weekend or an evening, whatever, they can go in for that time period and say, car, blue paint, with an approximate time frame. Up come all the videos. They can search it and they go, there's Bob again. Bob hit that gate. And now they can go back to Bob and talk to him about reimbursement, those sorts of things. So it's those kind of real world examples that are meaningful to the customers, of not just us telling them that we were able to deter something, but them being able to search and or view exactly what's going on. So that's a key one. But I also want to talk about the ROI. This is an interesting one. Certain customers are laser focused on ROI of our solution. And generally when that happens, they're looking at ROI versus traditional physical guards. And we talked a little bit about some of the pitfalls, I guess you would say, of traditional physical guards. We've demonstrated that in the first year, including the cost of the hardware and the installation versus traditional guards, depending on the number of guards, et cetera. But on average, first year ROI is 46% using our solution versus traditional guards. And we've already talked about the far superior efficacy of our solution, right? And here's what I found very interesting. I love talking to customers. Either potential customers or existing customers, because we learn or we get information that makes it more relevant to us to think about how to market ourselves going forward. I was at an event recently and talked to one of our customers, a vice president, who's making a number of decisions of incremental deployments of our solution all around ROI. And I said, well, that's great. Why are you so focused on ROI? Well, it turns out the largest pension fund in the United States, CalPERS, funds them to the tune of about $1 billion a year, right? To purchase additional properties, et cetera. And as you might expect, a fund like CalPERS is very focused on ROI, and our solution is helping them make the case for ROI improvement in their properties, particularly as it pertains to security. So, long answer to your question, but there's a couple of concrete examples.
So thanks for that. That's pretty helpful. So, let's talk about this master service agreement that you just announced.
Yeah.
Major commercial truck parking operator.
Yeah.
I believe this marks your entry into logistics and transportation. So,
Yep.
What's the opportunity in that sector, and how does your platform address challenges like cargo theft, for example?
Yeah. Great. Very good question. Again, go back to multifamily and think about all the explanations that we gave there. And now let's just sort of copy and paste, if you will, into transportation and logistics. So truck yards suffer a lot of theft. Well documented, well known. We have a brand ambassador that used to be in charge of physical security in the United States for UPS. So we know, or we're getting to know a whole lot more, right, about some of the challenges. If you think about a trailer that's parked in a truck yard for some period of time, thieves know that there's something in there. They don't know what it is. Could be vegetables, could be electronics, but they know that there's value there. So just take what we've explained from a multifamily standpoint and drop it on top of like a truck yard or a large truck stop. We can do the exact same things, right? We can monitor particular areas. We can eliminate blind spots. We can detect when someone might be cutting through the fence or hopping the fence or some other type of unauthorized entry, specifically with an objective to get access to getting inside these trailers. Here's the other thing we found out as well that's interesting, is particularly in the wintertime, another thing that we're able to help deter is, let's just say, homeless or unhoused people looking to stay warm. A trailer is an awful darn attractive place to be able to go. But here's the issue. It's not so much that the person's in there and, potential liability, but then they need to stay warm, and then they start a fire, and most of those trucks have wooden bases, and now you have a whole problem and big liability on your hands. So yeah, we're very, very bullish on transportation and logistics. We haven't announced the partner specifically, but yes, we entered into a master service agreement starting with a few sites with a clear goal, timeline, and roadmap to roll out to all of their remaining sites. And that's a huge opportunity for us.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty interesting opportunity. Let's zoom out just to look at verticals, other verticals more broadly. That's logistics and transportation. But maybe you talk about commercial and
Yeah,
what use cases are getting
yeah,
traction, and then maybe also just expand your answer here. Just what other verticals that you're most
sure,
excited
sure.
about, and how you prioritize those.
Yep. Um, let me start with prioritization. Because I'll get into the verticals. I'll get so excited I'll forget about prioritization. But that's very, very important to us. Not every vertical is, let's just say, copy and paste, right? And I'll get into that a little bit. So when we think about verticals, we like to think about areas where we can go in with minor modification to what we've already created, or light integration into other APIs that customers might want us to integrate with, like certain access control systems, if you will, right? Perhaps, the ability for us to have an image of someone or a car that just badged into a parking garage, right? Now they've got through the access control system, they know who came in, and then we also have an image of the person as well, or the vehicle. So those types of things. So prioritization, very, very key, because obviously we're focused on continuing to be focused on running a pretty tight ship from a financial standpoint. So we can't just say, yes, we'll do everything, and we'll commit to every engineering feature you could ever think of. So that's the prioritization. Now let's talk about additional verticals. Commercial properties, it kind of falls right in line with multifamily and transportation and logistics. And when we say commercial properties, think shopping malls, but not necessarily the interior of the shopping malls, but the exterior, right? Because that's where a lot of the issues can come up after hours. Think employee safety, going back to the parking lot after you close up, dark parking lot, those sorts of things. And we have solutions to address that. We partnered, or we have a partner that we jointly developed a mobile surveillance trailer with. Perfect application for parking lots, if you will, right? In addition to, the traditional exterior cameras and speakers and those sorts of things. And in fact, we have a handful of conversations going on right now to protect commercial properties. And we'll see, but maybe there's upcoming announcements in 2026 there, right? Additional verticals. I think there's two additional ones that I would highlight. One is construction. Again, lots of expensive tools, building materials, copper wiring, those sorts of things. So huge opportunity for us. And a couple ways you protect construction sites. They tend to be protected more from like the mobile surveillance trailer I just mentioned, or what's known as enclosures, right? For lack of a better phrase, an all-in-one box that you could mount on a pole that has the exact same technology that we provide to multifamily and other enterprise customers, but in a more mobile or transitory way, if that makes sense. So, number of active conversations in construction right now. Excuse me. And we actually have a couple of the enclosure products that are in deployment right now from a trial standpoint. So we're very bullish on the construction area. The last one I would say, and this is tricky, but I personally believe a lot more attention needs to be paid to it, and it is campus security. Now, is it high schools? Is it major universities? The answer is yes. And for instance, most universities have camera systems, but go back to the reactive versus proactive standpoint, or banks of cameras across a wide swath of the campus where physical guards are watching things. And we already talked about some of the challenges that come with that, right? And then in addition, in the parking lots, what do you have? Well, you have the box where press this if you're in trouble. Well, that doesn't really seem to be very proactive to me, right? Or to us. So we really think there's an opportunity there. It has a host of challenges, as you might expect. There's proprietary systems, people that put in those systems. If there's a VP of security or VPs of security, they're pretty tied to solutions that they made recommendations for. So it's a little tricky. It's a little time consuming, but we're convinced that our application, on top of layered on top of the infrastructure they already have, could really make a difference in helping them be more effective in protecting their communities. I don't want to get off track on it. Maybe at a different point we could talk about it, but up to and including, what's one of the things we're seeing that's just horrific and really, really discouraging, and that's gun violence in universities. We don't make the claim, and we don't think anyone can make a claim that you could identify an active shooter just before something happens. But the deterrence piece beforehand, suspicious activity, people on rooftops that shouldn't be on rooftops, those sorts of things, we absolutely could be part of a solution to help with that.
Unfortunately, kind of a timely answer, but
Yeah.
great to be part of the solution, or potential solution.
Yeah.
Couple more, if you got time.
Yes,
Hopefully
of
quick
course.
ones. Your CFO's not here, so but I'm going to put your
Thank goodness.
Yeah, your CFO head on very briefly. Just a little bit about financial strategy. Just how are you balancing investment and growth versus
Mhm.
building towards
Yeah.
profitability?
Yeah. Good question. So I alluded to it at the front end with the introduction, talking with Tim. Myself, our CFO, our entire executive team. Some people might view this as bad. We view it as good. We're all gray hair or no hair. We've been around the block. We've run companies. We've seen what's happened from the dot-com boom, right, to different market crashes. We just have a lot of experience in running companies. And to us, one of the key things is always having that balance of revenue growth, new product introductions, but also always keeping an eye on things from a financial performance standpoint. So I don't know if that's a differentiator, but when you think about artificial intelligence, what I usually think is all the hyperscalers that are spending billions, if not collectively now trillions of dollars on, data centers and and processors and people and all of that, where the financial model is still to be determined. How about that? Right? It's not going away, but the financial model still be determined. And James, I think you probably are keenly aware of that. What we're doing, we're using AI in a practical way, right? We found ways to monetize AI and with solutions using AI, provide value to our customers, and that is the backdrop we're using from a financial prudence standpoint, I guess you would say, and we're laser focused on it.
That's encouraging to hear. Okay, one more to kind of wrap us up here. So, getting close to year end as we look into a new year. Hard to believe it went so fast. In 2026, what are maybe 2 or 3 milestones that investors might look for to maybe gauge your progress on products, development, deployments, and just financial performance in general?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say there's three legs to the stool, right? From our standpoint. And James, I'm not going to say anything that you haven't heard 100 times. But from a financial standpoint, first is revenue growth. We talked about over the last 30 minutes or so about ways that we think we get there, right? Expansion into existing customers, taking down new logos, expansion into new verticals, all of which we're very excited about and very focused on. Number two would be continuing to work. These are all tied together, but a path to being cash flow positive. We're still in a net burn situation right now, not surprisingly, but we're close to finalizing our budget for 2026, getting approval from our board of directors, and that will be the plan and the blueprint for us as we march into 2026, and that will include improvements on cash flow performance on a monthly and quarterly basis as well. And the third one, when you take all of that and knit it all together, a continued march towards bottom line profitability, if not EBITDA profitability, right? I mean, it's those three things that we're really focused on, and we know we'll make demonstrable progress on. Sorry, we believe we'll make demonstrable progress on in 2026 and beyond.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, James. I'm going to pass it back to Tim to wrap us up.
Thanks, gents. James, I alluded to on the front end of the call that I've been a security hawk for decades. I won't bore you with the details. My head has been spinning the whole time you two have been talking. Would I be correct in thinking that your end users get significant insurance breaks? I would think if I'm a Chubb Insurance or Fireman's Insurance, and I'm covering some of these big end users, they would be getting significant deductions on their premiums.
That's an excellent question. And the answer is, so far, it's not as much as you would think.
Wow.
But we're working on that. We're working on that. Not that we're going to hire lobbyists to go,
sure,
right? To go after the insurance carriers. But clearly, we believe that solutions like ours provide far more value and should represent additional discounts from an insurance standpoint because of what we've proven we can do and the additional value that we bring. Great question, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, that seems so intuitive that they'd want to embrace that technology. So thanks again, gents. Have a great end of the year. I appreciate your time. A really fascinating conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry-specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small-Cap Spotlight podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.